Today, we're recording an episode with Lisa M.K. Ling for FLoW. FLoW is a course all about using specific tools that are based in science to become the best version of yourself. Through these several episodes that we do as part of the One Small Thing podcast, you are going to learn very specific tools, all within the span of learning how to become the best version of you. If you'd like to support the podcast, you can buy us a coffee at the link in the bio. You can sign up for our course on Mighty Networks. And now, without further ado, Lisa M.K. Ling. I grew up in a very strict Catholic household, and I'm now agnostic, so I'm not super into religion. I know that there's more to this world than just our existence as individuals. But because of my upbringing, I've always been very skeptical of any churchy or really spiritual trying to, pull me in, because I just don't want to get stuck. So I'm very on guard when it comes to like life coaching or life hacks. Or if it's not based in
Yeah.
science, I'm usually not interested. So hearing about FLoW from you was very interesting because I didn't get those like red flags where it made me want to step away. And initially I was very skeptical.
Yes.
You told me more and I got your vibe and I was like, okay, she's chill. This isn't a
Right.
marketing scheme. This is someone who genuinely just wants to help people and it's made it her life's passion. So
Yeah, I sense that that skepticism and like I'm never trying to convince anybody of anything because I don't like people trying to do that to me. I feel like it's disrespectful of my own autonomy. But I am open to just about everything. So I love learning and I will try just about everything, which is kind of how I came upon FLoW. Because I wanted a solution for me in my life because I was really stressed and I was not happy. In fact, I was really miserable with young children and moving all over the world, and I needed to figure out a way to not be miserable because I was like, "This sucks," feeling stressed all the time. We were actually living in Indonesia right after the 2004 tsunami, the Aceh tsunami, and it was the global epicenter for bird flu, and the Bali bomb had happened, and basically I had 2 really small children, and I was stressed every day of things that my children could die of. And I was like, "This is no way to live, to be that stressed all the time." And so I had to figure out how to function, and get things done and operate like at a high level, but at the same time enjoy life amidst all of the stresses that are around. And everybody has stress. You can just substitute whatever story mine is for yours, and it's basically that same concept. And FLoW is a way to get stress-free results, basically. So instead of getting your results through stress, struggle, and sacrifice, you get it through joy, ease, and flow.
I love that.
And
I think
yeah,
that's a great
so
place to start. I love that you found a way to be calm amidst all the chaos by creating your own method. So, for people who don't know, like I didn't know a few weeks ago before you told me about FLoW, what is FLoW?
we started talking about it and you were like, "So this is a way of life, it sounds like." And I was like, "Well, it can be, but flow is essentially a state of being." Right. And it's actually very well known, very well researched. There are books written about flow. Athletes call this in the zone, right? It's very, very common in sports. Every athlete, every high potential athlete or, good athlete will know what that means to be in the zone. And it's this, and you can see it if you watch sports on TV. You can see when people are just kind of they're in their zone, they just shoot 3-pointers, no problem. They run effortlessly, like whatever their sport is, they seem to be doing it effortlessly, easily, and enjoyably. And this is a state of being that not only athletes can get into, but anyone can get into. And in fact, we've all been in this state. Like if you think back, it might have been a long time ago or not, but even running as a child on a playground, just like free, full of energy. And so flow is a particular state where you are focused and alert and yet relaxed and calm at the same time. And those are two things that don't normally go together. Normally you're focused and alert and stressed, or you are calm and relaxed and groggy and drowsy. But in a flow state, you're actually focused and calm at the same time. So it's kind of opposite states that are crossing over to blend into this magical flow state.
It can be overwhelming to want to change everything about yourself, but you have this really unique way of explaining it where you're not changing everything on the outside, you're changing everything on the inside. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So it is overwhelming to think about all the things you want to change in your life sometimes, like your body, your health, your relationships, your work, your money situation, your home. Like everyone wants to up level something, right? And it can be really exhausting and time consuming and energy consuming to try to do all of that all at once from the outside in, which is how we mostly go about things. What I mean by that is, like, for example, say you want to lose weight, you immediately start changing what you're eating, right? Well, there's another way of doing it, which is I discovered actually as a parent because my kids showed me this because I would trying to get them to do certain things, like with Bodhi, for example. Like when he was 3, we were living in Indonesia, and I was like, okay, poop in the toilet, eat your vegetables, because toddlers don't always poop in the toilet.
Yeah.
Eat your vegetables and don't hit your sister, right? And there's like multiple things in a day. And I was also learning energy work at the time. I was learning Reiki and learning how to channel energy through my hands because I had seen one of my friends hold her kid's leg after he got hurt at our pool, and she just held her hands over his leg, and I was like, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Oh, this is Reiki. Like you can learn how to channel energy through your hands because everything is energy and there's energy running through your body. You can just channel it for healing purposes." So I started learning that and I started practicing on my kids at night when they were sleeping. I would kind of just do some deep breathing, get into a calm state, and then just feel the energy running through my body and put my hands on near them, but not on them, not touching. And the next day I noticed that they were little angels and all their behaviors were good.
Oh,
Bodhi pooped in the toilet, he ate his vegetables, he was nice to his sister, he listened, he cleaned up after himself, he, didn't have any tantrums. It was all good. And then the days when I didn't do Reiki on them, I noticed that all of their behaviors kind of went back to, you
wow.
know, and so
Yeah.
and this led me to believe, I was like, well, wait a second. So something is happening inside them that is changing their behavior on the outside. And this is actually the reason for my next book called Love Tank Parenting, because what I realized was happening is that there's kind of like a love tank inside each of us. And then when that tank is full and you feel really full of love, you feel really good, all your behaviors are good. Like you say nice things, you behave nicely because you feel good, right? And when you don't feel good, the opposite is true. Like you don't say nice things to people, you don't treat people well, you don't do nice things. You're more grumpy, you're more easily agitated because you don't feel good. And so I realized that there's this inside out thing going on where if all you did was fill the tank, like basically raise your vibe, help yourself feel better, then you would elevate, all the things on the outside all at once. So if you just did this one small thing, basically, it's like raising the tide that lifts all the boats. That's what led me to the inside out approach. I didn't come up with this by sitting there thinking about it. Life showed it to me. And then I thought about it. I used my analytical legal mind because I'm trained as a lawyer. to understand what was going on. So that's kind of how I came up with this whole inside out approach.
The Reiki stuff. I guess I didn't know much about that. Would you briefly be able to explain a little bit more about what Reiki energy work is? Is it based on
Right.
science, or is it based on like feelings?
First of all, it's science and art together. Everything is energy. Okay, this is straight up science 101, right? Everything is energy. Like you are a mass of cells made of atoms, which are electrons, neutrons, and protons, just like vibrating rapidly, right? And what seems, solid is actually not really solid. Like within the atom, the nucleus, if the nucleus was a football in the center of a football stadium, the electron would be out in the highest part of the stadium, just like a person way out there, and the rest of it would be empty space. Right? Those are kind of the proportions. So most of us is just it's empty space, and it's vibration of very, very tiny particles. So when you look at the world that way, it looks very, very different. When you think of the world in terms of energy, and this is actually a quote from Nikola Tesla, who Elon Musk named Tesla after, which is that if you want to understand the way the world works, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Because all energy is moving, and energy has a frequency, right? It's moving in either rapid, short little waves or longer, slower waves. And there's a vibration. There's a higher or lower vibration. And so feelings, the way you feel in your body relates to this. So for example, if you feel really good, like a really like love, full of love, blissed out, really happy, what does that feel like in your body? Right? Does it feel heavy and like solid, or does it feel light and airy?
Light and airy, definitely.
Light and airy, right? It's because it's a high vibration. It's literally like you can literally measure it in megahertz. And there's some places that say it's like 600 and above. I don't really know what the numbers mean, but
Yeah, no, that's
you
cool
can,
though.
yeah. And there's a scale of emotions. So love and gratitude and, happiness is basically at the top. And then you come down and you get more sort of less highly active emotions, but still positive, like contentment, fulfillment, peace. Then you get into hope. And then you get to the middle of the scale, which is neutral. And then you start dipping into the negative emotions. So just above neutral is hope in the positive side. Just below neutral is doubt.
Mm.
So it's a very mild negative emotion, but it's starting to get into the fear-based emotions. And if you go down lower, you get into doubt, worry, fear, anger, shame. And then the very bottom is depression. And anger and rage is right above depression. And the reason it's right above, it's still a very negative energy, but at least you have your power, right? Anger, you feel powerful. Depression, you feel powerless. So the reason why I'm explaining that there's a scale of emotions is because the scale, it relates to vibration. It relates to energy. And, when you're sad, when you're depressed, when you're angry, like, what does that feel like in your body? Like, I know when I'm angry, it feels heavy. It feels like sadness feels heavy. It feels like a weight on me. And it's because
Yeah.
it's a low vibration. It literally is a low vibration. So, everything we do is to get a feeling,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Why do you
Yeah.
buy those clothes? Because you want to look a certain way. Why do you want to look a certain way? Because you want people to respond to you a certain way. Why do you want that? Because then that makes
Yeah.
you feel a certain way. So the root of every single thing we do is to get a feeling. So
Cool.
we can reverse engineer that. We can decide the feeling we want, which is why I asked you those 2 questions. How do you feel now and how do you want to feel? Because you're flipping it around. Instead of doing all these things to try to get the feeling, which may or may not work, and it's kind of haphazard, right? Sometimes it
Yeah.
works, sometimes it doesn't. Usually
Right.
it works less of the time with the same thing because it's not new anymore. You can flip it around and do it the other way. Decide the feeling you want and then raise your vibration. I mean, assuming you want a higher vibration and a better feeling, which most people do what it takes in your body, mind, and spirit to raise your vibe, basically, and get that feeling. And the way you get that feeling is by using the 3 parts of you. You use your body, you use your mind, you use your spirit.
So it's a sliding scale, kind of, and to me it sounds like the energy that you put in to the world also gets reciprocated back to you in a way,
Yes, absolutely. That's the law of attraction, right?
because
The
you
same
talk.
energy
Yeah,
you put out is the energy that you get back.
I love that.
Therefore, the most important thing you can possibly do is to raise your vibration. Because if you put out a high vibration, guess what you're going to get back?
High vibration.
Right. And what does that look like? Right?
Yeah,
It
I
can
think it
look
looks
like
like
lots of
love.
different. It can look like loving relationships. It can look like people being nice to you. It can also
Yeah,
look like money. It can look like opportunities. It can look like circumstances just kind of unfolding, meetings going well. You know, there's a million ways that can look like, right?
positive vibrations.
Exactly. And conversely, if you have a low vibe and you're grumpy and you're just not having a good day and maybe you're sick, maybe you're tired, whatever, maybe something happened and you just like it lowered your vibe.
Yeah.
Although I have to say about that, but guess what you're going to get back?
This the
Low,
same like low vibes, low energy.
low vibe. And that's why, like when you're in a bad mood and stuff and you say you're making a salad, like you end up cutting your finger or, like things happen because
Yeah.
you're putting out a low vibe and then like
Yeah.
you end up getting that back and
Yeah.
basically negative things start happening until you kind of finally just
Yeah.
stop and breathe and you're like you finally just give up, right?
I tried this yesterday, actually. I was doing stuff and I was having issues with technology. And I literally said out loud, I was like, technology is not my friend today. And I took a step back. I was like, no, do not speak this into existence. I know it's such a small thing, but I was like,
Yeah.
you are good at technology. You can do technology. Because it was just like multiple
Yeah,
times. And then things started like just working. Because I was taking
exactly.
the time to troubleshoot instead of just chalking it up to, it not working, which wasn't being productive.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that what you were doing, like scientifically, what you were doing is the vibe was low. So instead of pressing on in a low vibe and getting more low vibe results, because you get out what you get back what you put out, you paused. Maybe you breathe, maybe you went and got a coffee, maybe you go for a little walk, like whatever you need to do to kind of break that pattern, come back fresh, come back from a different perspective, come back with a higher energy, because your thought and your feeling are both sending out energy. And then all of a sudden, the results you get are better.
Yeah.
So this is something I really had to learn because I was used to just pressing more when things things didn't go well. And that's really like if the training of any A-type person, like believe it or not, I was super A-type. I still kind of am sometimes, but for an A-type personality, if things aren't going well and you're not getting what you want, guess what you do? You do it harder. And if it's still not going well, you do it stronger. And if it's still not going well, you do it faster. And guess what? That's the Olympic motto. Higher, faster, stronger. And that's good for sports sometimes, but it's
Yeah.
not good for life all the time. It's good sometimes, but you need something else in order to break that. And this is coming back to flow state. Flow state, in its very definition of being relaxed and focused, is the balancing of opposites. And that's one of the key things about it. And it's not just balancing opposite within you, it's that whole idea of not making things right or wrong, but accepting both and making space for both. It's to pause for a moment, because I don't know if that sounds weird, but that essentially is one of the big framework ideas behind the whole idea of flow and the whole idea of being in harmony.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And okay, I feel like I need to explain that a little bit more.
No worries.
Let's look at nature. Sun and moon, day and night. Sun and moon make up our cosmos, right? Or our, sky.
Like our world.
Our world. And then you also have day and night make up a total day. You have, life and death. A seed grows, and then, it goes into a tree, and then the tree dies. And in nature, one is not necessarily better than the other. Like, is the sun better than the moon? Is a full-grown tree better than a rotten tree? I mean, it
They're
depends,
both
right?
important, right?
They're both important to the ecosystem.
We
Is
need
the rise of the wave better than the trough of the wave?
Yeah.
One nature
cannot
doesn't
exist without the other.
Right. One cannot exist without the other. And it's also with our breath, like breathing out and breathing in make one breath. Is one better than the other? No. But somehow we've done that with emotions. We've made positive emotions good and desirable, and we've made negative emotions like really bad. But they're really just, it's kind of like the breath. It's kind of like the day and the night. One, you can't have one without the other. And so if you get away from this whole idea of either or, like one is good, one is bad, it's either this or it's that, which our society is very polarized, right? You're either rich or poor, you're black or white, you're Republican or Democrat. It's like you can never be
Society
both.
loves to put people in boxes.
Right. So it's always polarizing and then making you choose one or the other. But actually,
Right.
so much of life is both.
Exactly.
And it's navigating, that space in between. And so I'm a very visual learner. So I have a visual about this, and I'll show it here. So you have two circles representing the different ideas, whatever they are. They could be sun and moon. It could be like, positive emotions, negative emotions, whatever. It doesn't matter what you put into these categories. And in the beginning, you are swinging violently between the two, and you don't really understand how they connect. Right?
Yeah.
You feel like your life is these volatile swings back and forth. You felt that, right? You told me you felt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
were
no,
saying-
I feel this constant, almost like weekly basis, right? Every other week, I feel high energy, ready to take on the world, ready to tackle my to-do list, make it a to-done list. But then the next week, it's almost like I burned all my energy and I'm trying to recover and I feel down, and it's like a negative spiral where I can't do anything because it just feels so hard to even consider doing one thing. And yeah, so it's like a violent swing back and forth of highs and lows. And it feels like there's no balance in between, or at least that's how it felt in the past.
Right. So you're in this. Okay.
Yeah.
So then this is going to go into flow all by doing one thing. You just let the circles touch. And how do you let the circles touch? By making space for both in your mind. So instead of only accepting one idea, in the first circle, first diagram, this is good and this is bad, and you can only have one circle. because the other one's bad and you don't want that one, right?
Right.
In this one, they're both okay. You accept both. And guess what
Yeah.
this is?
Flow.
This is an infinity loop,
Infinity loop.
right?
I'm
Look,
terrible at guessing things.
right. This
Yeah.
is an infinity loop.
Okay.
So by just letting these two ideas be okay and letting them touch in your mind, really, you instantly go from swinging violently back and forth to now navigating more gracefully. So you're
Right.
going to have low energy days, and that's okay. And then when you feel low energy, you rest. And then as you start to get more energy, like, okay, I'm ready to do a bit more. But then instead of like jumping and like doing a marathon, you just, gradually pick it up. You don't
On the
make rest.
upswing.
Yeah. And then you go into the other, but you don't make resting wrong. As soon as you make resting and having low energy wrong, you get more tired.
Yeah, because you're so like concerned about
You're
feeling
adding,
that way.
you're adding resistance in your mind is what you're
Yeah,
doing. And that takes up more energy.
exactly.
Part of the definition of flow is actually where there's energy moving with no resistance.
Hmm.
And no effort is required. See, effort is required only when there's resistance. But when there's no resistance, no effort is required. So you're not expending more energy to get flow. You're just removing resistance. And it's mental resistance mostly.
Right. I like that idea of follow, like you going with the flow, essentially, of the upswing and downswing. Is there like a daily practice or some sort of exercise I could do or someone at home could do to try to understand this concept by putting it into action?
The best thing is the breath.
Okay.
And the reason for that is, so you've got tools for your body like exercising and eating healthy and all of that kind of stuff, making raising the level of your body, your physical body, resting, exercising, eating well, drinking alkaline water, all that good stuff. And you got tools of your mind, positive affirmations, downstream thoughts, thinking, journaling, planning, wishing, writing down your dreams, your goals, all that good stuff. And you have tools of your spirit, like going outside, being in nature, doing things that really just fill you up. But the one tool that kind of rules them all and is for all of them is the breath. It literally is the single best thing to get into the flow, because it's the one thing that is continually connecting your outside world and your inside world in every single moment of your life. Like literally, as you're breathing, as you breathe out, you're taking air from inside of you out into the world. And as you breathe in, you're breathing in something from outside of you into your body, into your lungs. And guess what? Nature designed this perfectly, because trees and plants give off oxygen, and we give off carbon dioxide. And so they use our carbon dioxide and we use their oxygen. I mean,
It's a
who
very
can't?
reciprocal relationship.
I know, isn't that like a crazy symbiotic relationship?
I love it.
So the the one thing is to stop and take a deep breath. Even a single deep breath, like even right now, like it automatically resets your body and your mind and your heart. In our society, the mind just like takes over. We're trained in that in all through school. Just by doing that, you come back into more of a balance. And again, it's not about right or wrong. It's not that thinking is worse or that the mind is worse and the body is better. No, it's just that if it's 99-1, that's not a balance. Just shifting that more to like 50-50.
I'd love to shift gears a little bit and
Yeah.
talk more about FLoW, like the course, and what people can expect, because I think we've had some really awesome conversations here. And I'd also like to talk about how I could implement FLoW, like the first course into my life. We just released a first course, so people can go watch that right now on Instagram. But can you talk a little bit more about what lesson one is and how people can really get started today doing FLoW?
This breathing technique is really the first step in the whole FLoW course. Life showed me this method through for me, and then with my family and my children, my friends, and then I started teaching it to other people and then sharing it with clients, and just over the last 25 years it kind of just evolved. That's how I know it's real and it works, because all the best things, like, I feel like I stumble upon, I don't sort of invent them in my head. Life
Yeah.
shows them to me, and then I sort of
Mhm.
notice them, and then, put more energy and focus into it, which is how this all came about. I realized that there was a method that I went through. Again, I think this is a combination of my willingness to experiment. I tried everything, in my quest to feel better more often and not be miserable physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, because I wanted it all, you know. I tried everything. I tried every healing technique, you name it. I've tried it. And flow is kind of the combination of the things that worked, the things that had the most bang for the buck, and the things that were just easy to implement in my day. And so the f I realized that there were these 4 steps that I went through. The first step is self-awareness. The second step was self-control. Third step was self-care. And the fourth step was self-love. And I ran each of those through the 3 parts of me: my body, my mind, and my spirit. And so 4 times 3 is 12. And so there's this 12-part methodology, which is now the FLoW course, which we'll be taking everybody through once a month for the next 12 months, and 12 months makes a year. And I love the number 12 because so much of our life is organized by 12. There's 2 12-hour periods in a day, there's 12 months in a year, there's 12 zodiac signs, etc. So the universe is kind of organized, by this, which showed me also that it just felt right. So step 1 is really becoming present within yourself. That's the most important thing. It's allowing yourself to even get to the starting line, because so much of the time we're not present. Do you know what I mean when I say present versus not present? What does that mean to you? Okay.
To me, not present feels very scattered. I have all these things going on in my mind and I'm not living in the moment. And then present means whatever I'm doing, whatever I'm focused on, my full attention is there. And I'm operating my life in this very intentional sort of way. I'm in the moment always, but wherever I need to be, I'm fully present. And then, of course, you take 30 minutes a day to answer emails and stuff. But besides that,
Right, right, right.
so I
So,
don't know if that's right, but that's
no,
what
it
I
is.
perceived it to be.
And how does it feel when you're present versus not present?
Feeling not present is, first of all, not fun, but it's hard to even know how I feel because I'm so overwhelmed and I don't know where to start, like what to do,
Right.
what to think. When I am present, I feel almost like one with whatever I'm doing. It's this mixture between all of these emotions all at once and not knowing what to do with them, and then being just one thing and being very content with that.
Totally different feeling, right?
Yeah.
So the best way to get that is really through the breath. And I would recommend the 4. I mean, there's tons and tons of breathing techniques. It's not complicated at all. It doesn't have to be like, there's not like this one way of doing it that's perfect. There is no perfect way. Even if you just take a single deep breath, that's great. I like to breathe in through the nose and then out through the mouth, because I've noticed for myself that when I breathe in through my mouth, like I get more energy. And sometimes I want that if I want to get hyped up or get psyched up or something, I'll do that. But usually when I take a deep breath, I want to calm down. And so then I breathe in through the nose and then out through the mouth. And I feel like the circular motion of the air is also very calming for me because it's literally going in and up and then down and out. So, and then I imagine that, air going out and then coming back in. And so it's kind of like an infinity loop. There's like the inner circle and then there's the outer circle. And it kind of makes this infinity loop, you know,
Yeah.
which is also kind of calming because infinity loops go on forever.
Yeah.
They're self-sustaining and they also are very graceful, right? It's not like it's like you can navigate these extremes of life, these, challenges, tough things with grace, more gracefully, which is definitely what I wanted.
Yeah.
And what I'm finding is like other people want that too.
Yeah. I think we all
No,
want that.
well, because it's not like
Yeah.
challenges go away, right? You still
Right.
have challenges. You're still going to have stressful situations. But then the question is, then how can I deal with it a little bit more gracefully? And then what happens when you do that is that it doesn't feel so harsh on yourself. Like it doesn't feel as painful. It doesn't feel as fearful. You don't get as angry, and it's a process over time. So it's not like these habits that have been created for decades are just going to shift overnight.
The first lesson is all about going from absence to presence.
Right. Should I show
And
this?
yeah.
This is the whole thing. I don't know
Oh,
if
cool. I'll throw it up on the screen too. If you're
yeah.
watching, if you're listening, she's showing the flow method, the 12 steps she was talking about. If you're on YouTube, you can see it on the screen right now.
Yep.
Uh,
So we start here. This is the starting point. And as you can see, these are the 4 steps, right? Self-awareness, self-control. So these go down in columns. And then you've got your body, mind, spirit. It's not exactly that this is the body, this is the mind, it's not quite that linear. It's a bit more nuanced. But in the very beginning is going from absence to presence. Okay, so each of these black things, black icons is the subject, and then the white is the transformation from one to the other, right?
okay.
So the first step, you're going from being absent with yourself to being present. And that's the very beginning of starting this entire journey.
And that's where we are in this
That's
course.
where we are. Right.
Beginning.
And then by the time you get to the end of this first level, you're starting to feel the love within yourself because you will have gone through each of these once. Then you go through them again and you start building more habits and building more power. You start elevating, first you go from powerless to powerful. Then you're going from being able to regulate yourself to elevate. Then you go from being able to have an elevated state, obtaining it, to sustaining it. So this is really getting in the flow. This level is staying in the flow. And this level is living in the flow.
Within a year of starting this project and taking this course and being involved in the community, people are going to start to see a total shift in their way of living and like their lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, you
Even
will feel a
immediately,
shift
but
instantly, even just taking a single deep breath.
I've done that multiple times during
Right.
this conversation. And yeah,
So you feel the shift in your body, but the thing is that you're also adding this whole like mental framework around it. And so you've got your body with the breath shifting, and then you've got your mind shifting as you learn the different concepts. Because the thing is about energy is you need the energetic shift, but then you also need the mental shift. Otherwise, you'll just recreate the old energy, right? You can shift your energy in a moment to feel good. But then if you want to sustain it and hold that vibe, you need the mental framework that will allow you to hold it. Otherwise, your mind will recreate the old thinking patterns and you'll go right back to where you started. Like being an athlete taught me about the body. I was a high performance karate athlete. I was on the national team. I've won 9 national titles, traveling all over the world as an athlete, trying to do my best physically in a karate match. And that teaches you so much about your body, like how to train, how to eat, how to rest, recover. Like there's so much science just around that, right? That's a whole lifetime of study in and of itself. And I was obsessed with becoming world champion. And so I really went into that in a lot of detail, and that showed me how to elevate my body. But then I retired from competition. I had 2 children, and as a mother, well, before that, I'll back up. So as I was competing in karate, I was also training. I was in university and I was training as a lawyer. And law school taught me about the mind. So I did my law degree in Vancouver. I have my BA, JD, and then I went to England and I did my LLM, and I studied international trade law. And law teaches you how to, break things down into their individual components, analyze it, draw the essence of it, and then weave the pieces together, weave all the facts together, depending on the story you want to construct in a logical manner, right? And so this is really something I use with flow all the time, because something will happen and then I'll look at it and I'll break it down into all its pieces, which is how this method,
Yeah.
came about. Because and it took a while to figure out that this was the pattern, right? And even to break down the body, you into 3 pieces, body,
Yeah.
mind. So that training came in useful for that. And then the third thing is being a mom. I have 2 children who are now grown, and the second one is going off to university. So I feel like I've like completed this stage of motherhood. Like that just totally taught me about spirit, really, because you have these beings that come into your life. They crack your heart open and they show you and remind you about the wonder of life. Like to a child, everything is new, like a flower, a drop of rain, you know, a a toad on the in the pond. Everything is
Yeah.
new and cool, and also like scary, and you
Scary.
have all these
Yeah.
extremes of emotion. So that taught me about, just spirit and feeling, because kids just they don't hold back their emotions. They're sad, they cry. If they're happy, they jump for joy. Like their emotions are just on their sleeve. And when you put all that together, all that training, that's I think what prepared me to get ready to do this. And I think that's basically why I'm here.
It sounds
To
like all
bring
of
that
your
all
life experiences, you like synthesize the information into one like
yeah.
life guide, essentially, on how to
Yeah,
live life.
and along the way, I really thought I was a loser because I could never stay with anything. Like I would do one thing and then I'd like change. And then I would, do that for a while and then I would change. And depending on the lens through which you look at it, you could say, well, you never stick with anything. But then I also learned to change the lens through which I see things. And I learned to just let go, to trust the process of life, and to just see where it takes me. And it has basically taken me here. And so now I understand why all of that happened. But at the time, I was very judgmental and critical of myself because it was not normal to do it that way.
It's so interesting that you point that out because I feel like the same way almost because I went to college for 2 years to be a classical musician. I got a scholarship to play oboe and I got first chair in the orchestra, the wind ensemble, and it was just a lot of pressure. And so I quit because there's a whole backstory to it. But I was like, if I'm going to be this stressed out, it's not going to be for music.
Yeah.
And so I moved to Hawaii and started doing conservation and photography. And yeah, I feel like I've switched things up a lot. And I feel I relate to that a lot. But I have all of these skills now, like learning how to perfect an art and then using that information to get good at making paintings with microplastic and then getting good at making content, getting good at knowing what people like to see on like their Instagram feed and stuff. And putting all of that together now, it feels like it's coming together nicely with the perspective. of
Yeah.
that. It's like, yeah, I'm not sticking with anything, but I'm carrying all the skills with me. And I am learning to go with the flow more, just go where
Yeah.
life takes me, which has landed me here as well, interestingly
Stick
enough.
That is so awesome. Well, and you will see, like, what I've noticed is that you do have all of these skills, and I would it's funny that you say that because I've been wondering where they all come from, and now that you say that you're a musician and an artist, I'm like, "Okay, I understand." I'm
Yeah.
also a musician. I studied classical piano. I got my
Perfect.
ARCT, my Associate of the Royal Conservatory of Music degree.
Wow.
Yeah, I did it for, like, 12 years, and I had to do a 45-minute concert by memory, at the end to get the degree. So,
Gotta love that.
and I feel like music teaches you certain things and, you learn it's a different language. Trust the process of life, and if the process of life is leading you to do this and you feel the pull to do it, it's free, do it.
Do
Like,
it.
just see where it's gonna lead you, and yeah, you don't have to overthink it, just do it.
Just flow. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will
Yeah.
catch you next time.